Hey, have you ever bought an album just because the cover looked amazing? Or, worn a t-shirt with art from a band you've barely even listened to? Well, that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to dive into the incredible story of the album cover, how it went from just a plain old paper sleeve to a full-blown art form that literally shaped music, fashion, and our whole visual culture. But first, I've got to ask you something. What is it that makes an album cover stick with you? Become truly iconic? Is it the wild colors, a really powerful photo, maybe just a sense of mystery? Whatever it is, that's the magic we're going to unpack today. So check this out. On the left, that's where it all started. A simple, boring, functional sleeve. And on the right, yeah, one of the most recognizable images in music history, period. The journey from that first sleeve to that prism is what this is all about. How on earth did we get from plain packaging to a timeless piece of art? Let's find out. Okay, so to really get how big a deal album art became, we have to go way, way back to a time before the 1940s, when the cover of a record had one job, and one job only, to protect what was inside. Art? It wasn't even in the picture. It's honestly kind of hard to wrap your head around, but this is what you got. Records came in these incredibly dull paper sleeves. Seriously, they were so lifeless, just plain brown, tan, or green, that they were literally nicknamed tombstone covers. Their only purpose was protection, not inspiration. But then, one person comes along and changes everything. Meet the hero of our story, Alex Steinweiss. He was an art director at Columbia Records back in 1939, and he looked at these boring sleeves and saw something nobody else did. He saw a blank canvas, a chance to visually capture the sound and the feeling of the music. And this is where the story gets really wild. Columbia actually took a chance on his idea. They put out a Beethoven symphony with one of his new artistic covers, and the result was just staggering. Sales shot up by nearly 900%. This wasn't just a win for art, it was a commercial bombshell. The industry suddenly realized that a great cover could actually sell records. And just like that, the art of the album cover was born. So Steinweiss kicked the door open, and then in the 1960s and 70s, a whole new generation of artists and musicians just blew it right off its hinges. This was the golden age. The 12-inch vinyl LP wasn't just a record anymore. It was the perfect square canvas for this massive explosion of creativity, especially in the world of rock music. And all of a sudden, the real art world starts paying attention. You had established artists like Andy Warhol seeing the album cover as a new way to get their work out there. His famous banana design for the Velvet Underground, that wasn't just a cover. It was a piece of pop art. It completely blurred the lines between a commercial product and a genuine piece of art you'd want to own. At the same time, over in the world of prog rock, the art was getting just as epic as the music. You had artists like Roger Dean creating these incredible, surreal fantasy landscapes for bands like Yes. And then you had the design studio Hipgnosis doing something totally different, creating these mysterious photographic puzzles for bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. Either way, the art was way more than a cover. It was like a portal into the album's entire universe. But for every one of those super polished, fantastical prog rock covers, there was a raw, chaotic reaction. Punk rock basically crashed the party with a completely different vibe, do-it-yourself. They hated the slick, expensive designs of mainstream rock, so instead, they used things like collages, cut-up magazine letters, that classic ransom note look, to create something that felt immediate, angry, and totally real. And this is so crucial to get. Before the internet, before music videos, the album cover was the visual identity of the music. For a whole generation of kids, this was their main gateway to new ideas in art and design. It wasn't just a sleeve, it was a cultural education. It was how you learned what was cool. But you know how it goes. Right when things were at their creative peak, technology shows up and completely changes the game. The golden age of that glorious 12-inch canvas was about to face a bunch of threats that would shrink it down, both literally and culturally. The first hit was the compact disc back in the 80s. The canvas literally shrank overnight. It went from that big, beautiful 12-inch square to a tiny 4.7-inch plastic case. All that amazing detail, all that visual impact, poof, it was suddenly way, way smaller. And as if that wasn't enough, MTV launched. You know that first song they played, Video Killed the Radio Star? Well, it really should have been Video Killed the Album Cover Star. The music video took over as the main visual for music, and that's where all the creative energy and all the money started to go. And then came the knockout punch, the digital age. iTunes, Spotify, all of them. They took that grand piece of art and just squished it into a tiny, pixelated thumbnail on your screen. Suddenly, all that intricate detail, all that nuance, it was just lost. The format itself basically demanded simplicity because anything too complex just looked like a blur. And look, this isn't just a feeling we have, it's actually backed up by data. This chart is fascinating. It looks at almost 50,000 album covers over 75 years, and the trend is, well, it's undeniable. You can see a clear move towards being more and more simple, with a really sharp drop in complexity right after 2010 when streaming really took over. The digital age didn't just shrink the canvas, it simplified the art itself. But wait, the story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Just when it looked like the album cover was pretty much dead and buried, something totally unexpected happened. A resurrection. I mean, you've probably seen it, right? The vinyl revival. It makes no logical sense in a digital world, but people started buying records again. They wanted something real, something they could hold in their hands. And when vinyl came back, so did that glorious 12 by 12-inch canvas. But here's the really interesting twist in the story. The album cover came back, but its job had totally changed. It wasn't just about protecting a record or catching your eye in a store anymore. Its whole purpose had evolved. Yeah, this quote right here, it just nails it. Album covers have totally crossed over. They've become these pop objects that kind of exist on their own, separate from the music they were originally made for. I mean, think about it. Iconic album art is now everywhere. You see it on t-shirts, posters, phone cases, you name it. A teenager today might be walking around wearing a Ramones shirt with that iconic debut album cover without ever having actually listened to the music. The image itself has become the icon. So this slide just lays it all out perfectly. The album cover's original job, to protect the record, represent the music, and sell it, that's been replaced. Now it's a pop culture symbol. It's a fashion statement. It's a nostalgic icon. It belongs to our shared visual culture now, not just to music fans. So that leaves us with one last big question. In this world of tiny thumbnails and endless streaming playlists, has the power of a single iconic image, a truly great album cover, actually become more important than ever before? Is that physical piece of art the anchor we all need in this crazy sea of digital noise? It really makes you think, doesn't it? Thanks for watching.